And just leading to from that is like, how do we deal, with our mental health, bro, with like the trauma of police brutality? And the reason why I say that, and I know for me, just seeing what happened to George Floyd, and just everyone else, the names, the hashtags, like as a black person, as a black man, that can be traumatizing because so many times you put yourself in their shoe, or it makes you recollect the scenarios that you had to go through. And I know that was my trauma. It was like going through those memories of when I was pulled over and when that felt like, is this it? You know what I'm saying? Or what was going to happen? Or just that, that trepidation of like, wow, like I can't predict what's going to happen. Like, I don't know. So I need to make sure I'm good, So how do we deal with that trauma?
Bro, and I'm glad they used the T word. Like I tell my clients, I'm like, yo, what's the T word? And they know it's trauma. I'm like, and if they forget, I say it rhymes with drama, so they get it.
Yeah,
but
love
no,
that.
I'm glad you used the word trauma, because that's what it is. When you look at, what trauma is, it is any stressful event that can be long lasting, that affects your emotions, your behavior, and your thoughts. And those things, when we have traumas, we also have trauma triggers and trauma responses. Now, the trauma triggers are the reminders of the trauma, so I've seen situations where a woman who was raped, right? That was a traumatic experience for her.
Wow.
And so then she goes, she went somewhere in public years afterwards when she thought she was good. And immediately someone in the room had the same cologne that the guy who raped her had, and it triggered her. That was a trauma trigger right there. And so after a trauma trigger, you get a traumatic response. And so it was like she had to leave. She had to find a way to get out of that space, because she was reliving that trauma all over again. So trauma triggers don't always make sense. And when educating even white folks about that, when you see the different trauma triggers that we have, in terms of how people are protesting and how people are handling, racism as far as black folks, it's not going to make sense if you don't understand the history that comes behind that. And so when we look at police brutality, we're looking at how race and authority can be lethal. That combo is a problem. And that's what we're dealing with right now, where black folks are there's so many triggers that we have, and even as a black man, like I am honest with my clients that, before being a therapist, I'm a black man, and I have these experiences. I have these, sensations that come over me when a police officer is even driving behind me, so sometimes some of the triggers that we have are, seeing red and blue lights flashing. It could even be an emergency, not even a cop car, but just those lights flashing could be a trigger. Sometimes it's even hearing gunshots. Sometimes it's seeing handcuffs. Sometimes it's certain movies that have to deal with police brutality that become a trigger. Someone could be watching Mall Cop and still be triggered from that. And that's a comedy, but they could still be triggered from that.
And I just wanted, sorry I cut you off.
Yes.
I think it's really important you talked about the trigger, because I know for me personally, I've struggled with watching shows that detail police brutality, or just that kind of show anything that has to do with, I guess, even in the justice system, like cops getting away with murders of, black people, because that triggers me, bro. Honestly, it does. And I just can't go through that trauma process again of watching that, even in a fictitious sense, or even based on a true story sense. So I just want to reiterate, those triggers are real, and I just kind of exemplify my triggers, when it comes to just even when it comes to police brutality.